In the world of architecture, we often come across patterns which solves specific enterprise challenges. In today's episode, we're going to focus on an enterprise data platform architecture pattern called data mesh, which is expected to bring in a paradigm shift in how we look at data at the enterprise level. Hi everyone, welcome to TGIF, another Friday, another episode. Yes, in today's episode, we're going to focus on data mesh, and just to draw an analogy here, data mesh for data is synonymous to what microservices pattern did for application portfolio. Yes, microservices dominantly brought in a domain-driven design towards building smaller functions called microservices, which operate with utmost autonomy, and they could independently scale, and of course cohesively they gave us one solution portfolio. Likewise for data, we're looking at ubiquitous data with the distributed data mesh architecture. Yes, we're trying to bring in a domain-driven design into the world of data like we did in the world of applications using microservice architecture pattern. This concept is beautifully explained by Zamak from ThoughtWorks. I'm going to share that link in my post later. Now, before we take a peek into what data mesh is all about, let's look at traditionally how do we approach data platform at the enterprise level. Now, if you look at the visual right now, you have source systems where you're ingesting data, right? They're all data producers, and they all land up in a big data platform, which is a storage layer. And of course, there's a serving layer where data science team will look at you doing EDA, or your analysts look at visualization for the analysis. Now, traditionally on the ground, it translates to you having cross-functional, domain-oriented source teams, as you see in the visual right now. And on the other hand, you have cross-functional, domain-oriented consumer teams. But look, the problem is at the center where you have non-domain based, highly specialized data and ML platform engineers. And this is the very problem we are focusing on right now. Yes, we're looking at a non-domain specialist, data engineers, managing data without having any clue of the source systems or the source domain. And the best individuals suited to manage data are the engineers or domain specialists at the source systems, right? So that means any change requested today in the traditional approach would take a longer time for data engineers to fix it because they don't have any clue of the domain. Yeah. So data mesh is all about trying to bring in a domain-driven approach so that the data which are emerging from source systems is managed by domain specialists at the source, right? And data engineers dominantly focus on non-domain specific pipelines so that infrastructure on data is offered as a service to domain specialists so that they worry less about the technical building blocks leading up to managing data and exposing that as a product, right? With that, let's look at the 4 key tenets as being called out in this beautiful article, and let's look at each one, and that's probably the best way to understand what data mesh is all about. As you see on the screen right now, number 1, data. Number 2, distributed domain-driven architecture. Number 3, self-service platform design. Number 4, product thinking. In fact, for a long time, the aspiration at the enterprise has been to look at data as a service or data as a product. I think this architecture pattern beautifully services that design thinking to the foray. So think about this. We're looking at breaking the monolith, decomposing that into independent domain-specific data blocks, right? That means the source systems, they will manage the data in terms of storage, in terms of processing, in terms of exposing that data as a product. All the stuff is managed by the domain-specific team in an enterprise. You will have multiples of those, right? And that's where the need for us to look at infrastructure component, which is agnostic of domain, right? That's where data engineers will offer services like data pipeline definition, certain transformation which are non-domain specific transformation, and eventually exposing data as a service. All that technology building blocks are given and managed by data engineer who are tagged as non-domain specialists, right? That's the beauty of this specific tenet. That means the bulk of the heavy lifting is dominantly done by data engineers from infrastructure point of view. That means infrastructure in terms of self-discovery, publishing data, in terms of managing common transformations which are agnostic of domain, are all offered as democratized services to domain specific teams who manage data at their end. It's a beautiful thinking in terms of how you can create a mesh of data which will all come together to offer a holistic data solution at the enterprise level. Of course, the commonality here is the governance part of it, which is managed by a common team, and also the data infrastructure component, which is managed by a central data engineering team. And this is the new thinking. It's a paradigm shift in how data is looked at the enterprise level, breaking monolith into distributed mesh architecture. Yeah. So this is data mesh in a nutshell. Of course, there's a lot more to this. And again, as I said earlier, there's a wonderful article written by Zamak from ThoughtWorks. I'm going to share that link in my post. Go through that. And what I've done is basically capsule the design thinking in a short video. And this is perceived to be the next big thing in the world of data. In summary, data mesh is an emerging architecture pattern. Of course, we'll wait and see how enterprises embrace that. We know for sure that some enterprises already do that in miniature form, but as complexity from a source systems and the consuming systems increase, the need of the hour would be to have data mesh like an architecture. With that, thank you so much for joining me today. Keep watching TGIF. Have a wonderful Friday. A great weekend ahead.